All right, I'm at Ocala Car Audio for a couple of reasons, and it really may not make sense in that I just posted a video talking about a new build on a 991.2. But when the mouse shoot up the harness, the Porsche dealer didn't want to mess with the car stereo, and I didn't really want to mess in with it either. And so the other night I went to hook it up, and I just don't want to do it. The wiring part is not the fun part. And so what we're going to do today is I'm going to take you through the system and remind you, if you guys hadn't watched the very long, now several-year-old system of me putting the audio in the GT3, which again seems like blasphemy. Why would you put an audio system in a GT3? I'll explain that today. But I'm going to put a head unit in it. And believe it or not, in like Japan and other parts of the world, they don't have a PCM, they don't have the Porsche head unit, and so they will do like an aftermarket Clarion or something like that. And so Porsche makes a specific double-din kit with a trim ring that's Porsche OEM trim ring. It looks super clean. And so I'm going to do a Kenwood Exelon non-nav head unit just to clean up the sound, give me sub control, which I don't have, and also I have a ground loop that we've had since the beginning that I was able to isolate with a ground loop isolator, but now I want to be able to I just wanted to clean it up and make it factory functioning, and so that's something I'm gonna take you guys through. Here's the plan. I have the Genesis profile up front here. So there's the Genesis profile, or not profile, the Genesis Series 3. I always get it confused. The profile is the amp that's the model below. But we have a 4-channel amp. Two of the channels power passively the crossovers, and then of course the Dyne Esotec 242s. There's a 6-inch in the door, or 6.5 in the door. So there's the 6.5 down here in the door. There's a 1-inch tweeter here. So I have just a single front stage, no rear stage. And so what we're going to do is we're going to pull the other PCM factory head unit out. And so all those controls will come out, and of course I'll show you as we go through here. They'll be replaced. It'll all be touchscreen with the Kenwood 9903S. So under the seat is where we have our Moscone processor and crossovers, and then that's where we were grabbing the signal from the factory PCM. And so we're going to pull that out. We're going to open this up, pull the seat out, open it up so we can get to it, and then we'll have we're going to rewire the RCAs and get this thing all dialed in. And then of course this is the subwoofer in the kick panel there. So next week I'm going to do clear film here, so we'll do a section that comes up and across and down. And so again, I pulled the factory clear film off before I go to the mountain, so we can't fit it in today because we're going to have the car all torn apart. But next week I'm going to have that done. I'm also going to do the windshield with some crystalline 70%. So here's our head unit. This is the DDX 9903S. I've always thought of Kenwood as second rate, but it's not the case anymore. I mean, Alpine's kind of gotten left behind, and I want a unit without nav, and so all the nav will be driven by Apple CarPlay. So this is the sort of the state-of-the-art, I think best sounding is 5-volt pre-out. So that's where we'll pick up. Even though the Moscone does a good job of taking the signal from the PCM, this will be superior sound quality wise, and so that's the main reason I'm doing it. Also to eliminate any chance of a ground loop by rerunning the RCAs and all of that. I don't get too crazy about audio in the car. I mean, it is a GT3. I mean, the thing is super noisy, and really, to be honest with you, I mean, the main reason to why to have a decent stereo is volume, just to take away some of the. So like I've been driving around the last couple of weeks without any audio at all, and it just makes it so obnoxious. Like you hear every little rattle and squeak, and if you care about that stuff, it becomes problematic. And so, this will, we'll be able to play FLAC. We'll be able to play high-res audio. I kind of cap it at worrying about, having just some decent audio from Spotify, which is 320 kilobits per second. So if you're still using, like Apple Music, or you're using Pandora, Spotify, if you subscribe to Spotify Premium, it's the only streaming service that's practical, that has a lot of titles. I think there's another company, I think it's called Tidal, where you can do high-res audio downloads, but the Spotify is the system. It's the way to go. But this unit will play. I don't think this does DVD audio. I've also done some DVD audio stuff, because the factory PCM does DVD audio. I'd never actually listened to it, but I have it. And so most of what will be done is I'll be using through USB or Bluetooth, be using Spotify at 320 kilobits per second. But this is the Exelon, the 9903, which doesn't have a full nav system. It does have an antenna, which the guys were just telling me about. The antenna will go up in the dash. It basically amplifies, I guess, the cell signal when you're connected through Apple CarPlay with that, with that connection. So this is what I'm most excited about, is knowing how to take it apart and put it back together. Just from working on so many cars for so many years,
you're going to be surprised for a high-end car that's actually really well built. It's thought out very well. Comes apart like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah. When I took this thing apart, I've taken apart a lot of cars. The nice thing about these, though, is it does go back together. Some of the other cars don't go back together so good, at least not for me.
If it doesn't, I'll just blame it on the rats. If anything catches on fire, the rats did it.
That's smart. So what we're going to be doing here is, I mentioned briefly, he wants to get this opened up, get the head unit out, make sure we don't have any like funky fiber optic stuff or need any specific parts to make this head unit work. Because these newer cars are much more sophisticated than just grabbing a Metra harness and rolling, right? Much different these days. So Kenwood is, see, back in my day, in the late 90s, early 2000s, Kenwood was always kind of third rate. But it's not the case anymore, is it?
Yeah, back then it was Alpine was amongst the tops, yep. And then they had a few people that's all they did was design head units. They didn't even touch the other portions. But Kenwood's come a long way. They're one of the industry leaders. They're right up top now. And then they actually merged with JVC as well. So now it's Kenwood JVC.
Ah, okay.
So they got new technologies from that deal as well. It's just like that.
That would have taken me an hour and a half.
It's all right. I'll charge you for 3 if it makes you feel better.
No. Dude, this is that USB outlet I was talking about right there.
I'll go ahead and pop that out. That whole panel pops out, and I'll see if there's a way that we can interface it on the back side. Yep. That's the optical.
Well, is there anything connected to it?
No.
Okay.
So that's one good thing. It is wired for the optical, but your unit is not using it. So
right.
We should be in good shape.
Good. What happens if it is? You just need specific interfaces to convert?
There is no direct plug and play version of a optical interface. So you're going to need to get an actual whole system that translates it into an analog signal.
So there's the back of the unit. What the heck is all that crap? So one's antenna and...
Yeah, usually for the most part they use these kind of connectors. One's going to be your factory GPS, one's going to be this should be factory XM satellite. A lot of times they'll use one of these for a USB. Your FM antenna is going to be one of these since it's not optical. Because if it's optical, it'll be one of these 4 ports here. Where we saw that light coming through. but as you saw, nothing plugs into the back side of that.
It's just empty.
So if it had the two here, that's when you would need that option.
So it must be like the 911 Turbo, or maybe one with the Burmester, because you can get a Burmester option, or maybe Bose. Does Bose use optical at all?
They do on certain things, but
Yeah.
I want to say the last one I saw on here.
Well, because this is, you know, is built on a 911 chassis, right? So it has all the same things as the 911, but like the audio system in here is very different than a regular 911.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
But
garbage.
this is going to be our main concern. Is obviously we're getting signal down there, and it's going to output to your speakers, and then we have this is going to be your ground. This is going to be your constant power, but there is no ignition in this harness, so we're going to have to either use something to generate one, or we're just going to find one somewhere else in the car. A lot of times they put it on the brake pedal, because you have to press that in order to start the vehicle. So sometimes they put it there. I've seen a lot of times when we use the DUI interlock devices to where we lock people out from starting the car, we can actually put it on the brake wire, because you can't start a lot of these vehicles without pressing the brake. So we'll find you an ignition wire.
See, that's the part I didn't want to mess with on myself.
Oh, the fun part.
So if you guys have never seen the previous videos, here's the sub box, which is awesome. 6 inches deep. Uses the entire kick panel of the car to generate energy. Thing freaking rips. I'm just gonna pull the passenger seat out, because that's where all this stuff is underneath it. Does the Kenwood have sub control? I'm assuming. See, because I have a sub control here that we put in custom. Problem is the Genesis amp that I had gotten was faulty, and so we sent a new Genesis amp to me, but forgot to dictate having the sub module inside of it, and so I have this fancy sub control run, but no sub control.
At least it looks pretty.
Yeah, right.
So it's technically faster than even modified GTs.
So there's his 2.3 liter 4-cylinder. I'll show you guys on camera out here in a minute. His Mustang. It's a few more horsepower than my my GT350, just a couple. I did a flash tune, a Lund flash tune.
Yeah.
And the JLT intake. So I should be, it dynoed at like 470, but those cars, of being a flat plane, doesn't have a whole heck of a lot of torque. It's like 360 foot-pounds of torque.
See, mine, when we first did it, it was at after a few upgrades, it was at 320 wheel power and 408 torque.
Yeah, right.
Actually, that sheet's sitting over there too. But it's just a torque monster.
And so then, so I should be somewhere around 500 wheel horsepower. NA 5.2 liter, flat plane crank. It's such a cool character. I'm a naturally aspirated junkie. And I actually, maybe because I'm a sissy, I like lack of low end torque. It just means I can beat on it a little bit more, without getting into trouble.
I won't do what I did again. I wanted to just try and prove something. All I did was prove that I can spend a lot of money. So I mean, yeah.
So did you upgrade the turbos and everything to get that, or is that factory?
It's got it's still got the factory turbo, but it's got an aftermarket downpipe. And then I went through Cervini's. I told them that I was building another car, because I always build a lot of cars. And I went through Cervini's and told them, and they helped me out with give me a steep discount on all the things. So I have every body part that they make, and then the side exhaust kit they did with it. It's got a 3-inch exhaust all the way back, and then I had a local muffler shop custom do all the downpipe and tubing and everything. And
is anybody even making that stuff yet, aftermarket?
They are. There's a lot of companies that do it. One of the main issues with that car, whenever you go to changing all the difference in the exhaust and whatever, it eliminates the back pressure. And the way that car is designed, whenever it doesn't have the positive the positive ventilation in the crankcase, it starts putting oil back into the intake. The second that I took the downpipe and went off-road downpipe, smoke like you wouldn't believe. So we went to a couple people, and it was one of those things. No, that's just that car. Nobody can do anything about it. Whatever.
It's weird because my GT350, you put in an intake, which is just like 10 millimeters wider on the the pipe.
Yep.
And it freaking throws the thing into a tizzy. It needs a tune just because of an intake.
They're very specific, and now you're putting a lot more air into it.
Yeah. Same thing long tube headers.
Yeah, but I bet you it sounds great.
Yeah.
I love the way the long tube headers make those cars sound.
It was already, I mean, from the factory's great. I prefer deep rather than rasp.
Yeah.
And the factory exhaust is very raspy, very lots of cracking and tons of character. But I like linearity, just the same sound, just amplified as the as you get higher in RPM range.
Yeah, I'm certainly with.
So there's our crossovers, a Moscone. There's our noise filter, which hopefully we will not need.
Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and take that out at this point.
Let's go throw that in the dumpster.
I like the attempt at the heat shrink.
Suck it. Yeah, you didn't have to work too hard to get that off there, did you?
No, but for the most part, I mean, it looks. I'll admit, it looks a lot better than a lot of the home installs that come in for DIY.
Well, in fairness,
you left yourself a little notice.
Yeah.
So
See,
that's how you do that.
So Sound and Motion set me up with the wires. I just had to terminate everything, So that's where the sketchiness comes in.
Well, these are all custom-made RCAs too.
Yeah. So that's where my fear of issues is that my termination skills on those twisted pairs.
Okay, now your Moscone box. What we're wanting to reuse that?
Yeah.
So this was the input section you were getting all your noise out of, or is that the output section you were getting the noise?
Both. Yeah, both. I mean, again, it was just not a lot of noise, just ground loop. So which I guess is noise, but.
So this eliminated it on the output section?
It helped. It didn't eliminate, but got rid of 90% of it. That's why I want to redo it. So my thought of giving it a clean 5 volts from the Kenwood, combined with new clean shielded RCAs up front, proper ground, and we're dialed. It's kind of hard to mess it up at that point. See, this is why it always takes me. It always takes me about a few hours of convincing shops to let me come in and film this, because they're always nervous I'm going to be like this, because my channel's Obsessed Garage, and people are always nervous that I'm going to worry about. You have to use some muscle sometimes to get stuff done. And I had my exhaust done, I had my resonators cut off at an exhaust shop. And you know what exhaust shops are like, they're always shady, but those guys are the best at what they do. And so I'll make a video, and then all these kids who have never really experienced how their car gets worked on, they get all worked up about it, that the people don't know what they're doing, or how could you let somebody work like that on your car? But this is how it goes. And it's 50 times better than when I'm working on it. So if you guys with GT3s that are watching this, I mean, these things come apart relatively easily, and they go back together relatively easily. And so you don't have to get all worried about doing something like this. If you value audio, I think this is a worthwhile upgrade. So we got ourselves a ignition wire in order to turn on and off the head unit so that it doesn't sit either powered up all the time or not powered up, right? Isn't that basically what we're doing? That's it.
I want to make sure it functions only when the key's on. So we're off. We got our accessory. And we got our voltage when the car is running.
That's what we need.
That's us.
What were you just saying? You're gonna step up the voltage?
It's actually, we're stepping up the amperage.
Okay.
Not the voltage. But it doesn't take an extreme amount of amperage to power a head unit but we want to make sure it doesn't interfere with any of the other electronics. So I'm going to isolate it away, and we'll go ahead and step up the amperage so that we never have any issues.
I'm not doing this.
Me too. Oh wait.
I'd have to figure out all this stuff. So that's the harness off the back of the Kenwood, right?
Correct.
So 90% of it we're not using.
Yeah, close to it. Bypass for video and motion, and the steering wheel controls are not being used in here. The illumination, it's your call. A lot of people don't like it hooked up at all. I'm not a fan of it.
Well, then don't do it.
And then we're going to use the remote, the power, the ground, and the tip.
So here's our new fancy machine.
That's it.
Fancy box.
Running your GPS antenna and your mic. You power it up, make sure everything's working. Then we'll worry about getting the sound out.
Trying to make sure we don't get that ground noise.
Yeah, but I mean, what kind are these?
These are actually the kicker, but they're some very, very nice RCAs. We didn't have the right lengths that we wanted to use, and we didn't want to coil up a bunch of stuff and create antennas. So I called up a buddy of mine that was willing to help us out a little bit, and so just putting some RCAs in the appropriate lengths that we're not having to wind up too much and create antennas that are going to pick up the noise.
We have ignition power there. Then does the hen unit then has a remote to turn on Moscone, and then Moscone turns on the amp?
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be another thing that more than likely you're going to have to reset in that Moscone, because I know it generates a turn on pulse, but we no longer need it to do that. We need it to come on with a remote lead instead of a signal pulse.
What is that? That's our power and ground?
Yeah, but I'm going to put this to a relay and then come off the other side of the relay for the power and ground. Yeah, that's essentially what they are.
See, the beauty of all this, people get kind of sketched out about this kind of stuff, but I mean, it's all completely reversible right back to stock if you ever wanted to be,
You got it. So essentially, we have two options. I can either pull this plate out or drill it out, and then bring your two cables here clear through. This one, this is your USB input, but this is the output. So that's what it turns into. So we're not going to be able to reutilize this portion of it. The only thing that, if we feel like getting super crazy, would be to simulate the same thing and actually seal it right in there with some form of adhesive. There's nothing that says that it'll stay there, so I wouldn't recommend it. I mean, you're much better off if we either, for aesthetics, you can either take this plate clear out and just push the wires through here, so you'll have the two hanging there, or just bring the two straight through here. And then they'll be there, and you can utilize them whenever you want. Or to get them a little more snug, we drill holes into this. Either way, that's your call. But that's
So one's USB.
Well, they're both USBs, but one is primarily for the functionality of your CarPlay or Android system. If you look on it, it'll say iPod, iPhone on one. That's the primary cable. This is the secondary. It will do USB jump drives. It will do charging. It will do a lot of storage functions. It'll do almost everything, but this is the main communication.
So the phone is going to be most of the time I'm going to be connected via Bluetooth, right?
It's your call. I mean, this is a CarPlay connection where you can actually use that SIM cord and put it in there, or you can Bluetooth it. It's your call on how you're going to utilize it.
Yeah, I'd like to have that in there, I think.
Yeah, we can work on that. I'll go ahead and what I'll do is I'll put it in there. I'll wedge it in there, and then I'll put some ABS plastic on the top and the bottom to put it in there super secure, and then we'll use some CA glue to back it in.
I don't know what I would use this sucker for. Oh, I guess it is just a regular.
Yeah, that's all it is.
Looking for a spot. Put the GPS antenna out of the way. So that's for, okay, so that's for
It's
me.
for all the Bluetooth functionality.
But what if I'm talking, so what if I'm talking on the phone through the car? That's what that's for? All right, put it back.
That receives it.
I thought it was just for like voice activation garbage.
No, that is a feature of it, but it's in general, it's a microphone connected directly to the unit. So if you're using any kind of hands-free.
Is it better than factory? Is it good?
I don't know that it's better than factory. I mean, microphones are like anything else. They're gonna have a certain level that they go to. They want to be able to block out a certain amount of noise from the vehicle and whatever. It's essentially, I believe that they use all the same kind of microphones. I don't know that one's better than the other. I mean, when you get into recording and stuff like that, then yeah, you need different condensers, different things. But as pertaining to this, I don't.
Yeah, I was thinking that the mic would be on the face of the unit, but
no, they did away with that quite some time ago.
here's our OEM trim ring. An OEM cage for the aftermarket doubled in. Pretty slick about this harness that we created.
So you already got the grommets deteriorating here.
Is it?
Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
iffy on how we want to go about this.
Like, are you thinking just run new speaker wires too?
We'll see. I'll test them for continuity and see how much resistance we're pulling.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't need to, we're not gonna.
Yeah, I'm down with that. So we're pulling the RCAs back through so we can run some new shielded versions. You're negating hours and hours of my work in like freaking 15 minutes.
Yeah, but you can take it with you, so.
I don't want it to light it on fire.
I can tell you the rate that it burns at. I used to do that as a newbie tradition. The hook wire is meant to conduct to a certain amperage.
Mm-hmm.
So you can hook it onto, you hook one end onto the positive of a battery charger, the other end on a negative, throw it under a car. At a certain time, it'll gather up enough to where it makes the wire hot enough and it starts burning the shielding off. Smoke starts pouring out from under the car.
And then they start freaking out.
Yeah, they lose it pretty quick. It's fun.
That's a great trick. Till you light the the S550 on fire accidentally.
Yeah, you don't do it on certain cars. You want to do it on an Expedition or something that's up high.
Yeah. So now there we go. We've isolated the RCAs from the speaker wire harness, so we can pull those out of the car. And start fresh. Yeah, those are the inputs. So we're going to run dedicated RCAs. So those are coming off of the harness.
Yeah, we're going to run new RCAs.
Right. Because this was, you know, these are coming off the harnesses of the car. Right.
Not a problem. Even better.
Yeah. I almost wish I did that from the start.
Well, the twisted pair, it's, I mean, you're missing a shielding, but aside from that,
the twisting rejects noise.
Yeah, you have the same technology that they're using. It's just without a shield.
Yeah.
We do this a lot on horse trailers and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Because everything's custom fit the length.
Yep.
So it's not a bad technology. It just didn't work in this application.
Mm-hmm. You know, I ran shielded cables outside the car, like to test. It still had a loop, so I don't even know if it is the RCAs. I think a lot of it is to do with this, you know.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and leave those hooked up, so if anything ever happens, but I'll tape them up and get them out of the way. Special.
Yeah, yeah.
I like that. What's this go to? Oh wait, red to yellow, black to brown. Okay.
That was for me. They dummy proofed it for me.
Well, like I said, those are your that's your ground, and that's your constant.
Yep.
Still have no ignition. The good thing about this is it generates the remote turn-on pulse.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The bad thing is now we no longer have anything in the car to send signal to tell it to turn on to generate a pulse.
Meaning that would tell the head unit to turn on?
Yeah, we need something to tell the head unit when to turn on. I want to say the last one I did, it was in here where your fuse was.
I'm doing a weight loss challenge with a buddy of mine. If I lose, he gets my GT350 for 2 weeks. I have to drive his 2002 Ford Focus for 2 weeks. And I have to drive it.
Make a video.
Yeah, well, I'm not losing. He loses, he has to be my dedicated cameraman for a month. When I did the original install, and then I had Derek from Sound in Motion, who's like won I Ask a Pro like 10 years or something. He was won it multiple times. And, we tuned the car, you know, on a charger, and there was a slight whine, but it just had a little baby whine when I installed it. I didn't know that was a ground loop. So we RTA'd the thing, like spent 5 hours tuning it, 5-6 hours tuning it with a mic stand and everything. Turned the car on, wing, wing, wing. It was like the most disheartening thing. And he was getting on a plane, so he couldn't even fix it.
Yeah, it's always a kicker whenever that happens. You get ground loop isolation from running, it's usually a good rule to never run the RCAs along with the power wire. So you ran them in across here, not a super huge issue because the battery is over there, but they have this huge junction box right here. So you have this 4-gauge, maybe even 2-gauge wire running all the way from this junction straight down the center of the whole vehicle to your engine. So
does that mean we should run the RCAs on the driver's side? Is that what you're saying?
Well, at some point they're going to cross.
Right.
So we'll try and tuck them up and keep them as far away. See, this is where they originally went, right on top of the wire.
Yeah.
And ran right alongside it.
That big
and
red
right
wire
onto
up
the
in
box.
there. Yeah.
So that's one thing we'll try and do to help eliminate that. And then the head unit should have certain suppressions in it as well. So.
And then also yeah, and then grounding it in a proper spot. Yep.
Between the two.
We've got our input and output RCAs run. And we just have to deal with figuring out which one's which. Smart.
marked them so we know which is which. Learn that lesson.
Good thinking. This is a relatively inexpensive Porsche part. It was only like 130 bucks.
It's actually about the same price if you would have tried to get a kit for it.
Right. Dang, that makes it so much easier. It's awesome. Super clean. What the heck are those? Little shims?
No, it's a keeper. It goes through with plastic tabs, and then you put the little keeper on so it doesn't back off.
Hmm.
The first one I did didn't have these. You had to just use a hot torch and almost do a plastic weld like they do on a lot of factory tabs. So I guess they got smart. Very first one of these I did, they didn't even have a kit for it yet.
She said to build a custom trim ring.
Built a custom kit, and then I took the right here and drilled a hole and put the Bluetooth microphone in.
Is there a trim piece?
No, that's when it's at its angle, you're not going to see it.
Makes sense.
I'm pretty sure you'll take this out at some point.
No, hopefully I would sell the car with it all in it, just as it is.
I didn't say take it out to keep it up. I figured you'd take it out and play with it.
No. I'm not a tinkerer. I'm a functional. I like it to function. If I have to do it, I'll do it. But
Functioning obsessive.
yeah, I just want everything to work. I didn't put 13 exhausts on the car because I wanted to. It's just it didn't fucking work. To a good start. I gotta get this styled for the USB.
It's got, if you look inside there, it's got serrated portions to help line it up.
Yeah.
You need to take those out because the casing for the new one
It's flat.
is large.
Or just basically shimming it in there and then glue it or silicone it.
Yeah, make sure it's dead centered.
Yeah.
That's what the shims top and bottom will do for us.
Yep.
We'll go ahead and seal it in.
And then I guess we only really need one, right? I mean,
yeah. The other one, if you look at them, this one says iPod, iPhone, which we covered it up now.
And then the other would be for like an external.
Yeah, the other one is simply USB.
Which I'm not going to use. Yeah, I'm not going to put a USB drive or thumb drive, and then I could always plug it into the USB of the iPhone. I think.
Yeah, it goes in the same one.
Yeah, it's just if you wanted to run both simultaneously.
You got it.
Put some black goop on there, and that'll solve all of our problems. behind the battery, so I took the battery out. There's like a ground post there.
Yeah, that's where they went to.
Is there anywhere to...
Well, there's another grounding bolt right here inside the vehicle.
Oh, yeah. Just have to run a new ground to get to that.
Mm-hmm. Maybe if we're going to do that, better off taking the battery out, since we already have the wire there. Just take the battery out and grab it behind there.
Alright, so we got power and ground. Legit. So now we need to get our software dialed so we can... But because before we had full range signal coming from the PCM, now we're going to have sub out from the 9903. And so we need to get into the software to make sure that the low pass is set properly. Alright, we got some audio. That's a good sign. Until we start it up. I'm working on trying to get the drivers installed on this software. Alright, so we got some sound. Finishing up the wiring of the head unit. This is usually good when pieces are going back in. But man, that trim ring is clean. I think it looks way better than factory.
What's that do?
Suck it.
Oh, it comes apart.
Red and white are positive.
You guys have more information and know things than I'll argue and so when you guys do that, that's all good with me.
I've been dreaming, baby. I've been dreaming of the day that we make love.
So there appears to be no ground loop. Sounds clean. We still don't, we are not able to connect to the Moscone because the laptop is just not, I don't know, it's not connecting. But I just did a quick little demo and everything seems, at least it sounds good enough for now, for a trip. And then I'll connect my laptop and maybe have it tuned later if we need to, but the key is it works. It sounds good. Should I just cut it off?
We don't want to do that only because...
Yeah, we can, if I ever go back to the factory harness, I'll have extra wire there to...
Well, it's going to simplify any form of installation because you've already got them tagged off. You know
Yeah.
what's what. And as of right now, they're not hooked to anything. So you're not winning and you're not losing. So.
Gotcha. It's under the seat. Meaning it'll help you next time if I decide to put it back to stock. I'm not making another video.
Just call in advance, I'll be sick of it.
This is it. This is your debut and your entrance and your exit.
Say that until you get 10,000 people saying, "Where's that guy again?" And then you gotta fly me in somewhere.
What the heck that's from? Extra pieces. Come on, man, you're the pro. This is not me doing it. I shouldn't have any extra pieces.
Yeah, I can put back whatever I take apart.
All right, so amp's back in, amp rack. I'll put the trim ring around here, the rubber trim. The trim piece back on. I think I got, I don't see any extra parts other than the old head unit. I'll get my C-Tech charger thing fixed up. Put the seat back in and we're ready to roll. 2 hours ago, it was touch and go there for a minute. Now we're back on track. There you go. It's gonna suck when we turn it on and it doesn't work, right? That never happens to you? Alright, seats back in. Well, back in the car anyway. Old wires. Dude, I'm telling you, the head unit looks legit. So the car's running. Subs in, seats in. I need to reset the light. No ground loop.
You only been after 2 days on foot.
Did they tell you that I guess I got this tomorrow?
All right, so system's done. We've idled it. I've revved it a couple of times. No ground loop. The Moscone I'm running with the same, the same settings, the same RTA, which, I'll probably get it tuned at some point, just because the voltage output of the Kenwood is going to be significantly different than the voltage, output of the PCM as we were, connecting, line level up to that. This is actually running 5-volt pre-out with a dedicated sub output. I now have sub control where I didn't have before, but the gains and everything on the amp I just left flat. But the key is the system's in, the head unit works. Thank God I came here and did it. Didn't try to do it myself. Just wasn't going to be feasible for me to try to do. But everything's tied up, put away, back together, like we never even touched the car. All I have to do is wipe some fingerprints off when I get home, and we're back to new again. So we're working on getting the just when you take the passenger seat out, the airbag light comes on. So we're working on to see if we can reset that. If we can't, then I'll just go to the dealer and get that done. But anyway, great day, great project, and pumped to have my car back completely together. Audio, motor, everything, the wiring from the mouse and everything only took me 5 months to get it finished from start to finish to get the car back to go out and drive it. I haven't been driving it a lot because I didn't have any audio, and the whole front end was kind of torn apart. Now that it's put back together, I feel good to go out and go to the mountains and do my thing. Plus, the car again is it was dialed in, paint's dialed in. So anyway, thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more crazy. What happens when the force pulls you back, your foot naturally comes off the gas. You have to keep your foot to the floor.